Hey, welcome to episode 109 of the Unsecurity Podcast. We're glad you've joined us. The date is December 9th, 2020, and I'm your host, Evan Francine. Joining me is my pal and coworker, Brad. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Evan.
How you been?
Not bad.
Good. We're
Can't
going to
complain.
appear in a minute. Well, you could. Would
Well,
I listen?
you would listen, but you wouldn't really pay attention or absorb it.
Some of that's ADHD. Just saying. All right. Well, it's good to come up for air, and it's nice to hang out with you. Uh, let's catch up a little bit. How you doing? What's new? How's the labyrinthitis?
Overall, not bad. I sent you a video of kind of what like a symptom of it is Friday. The best comparison that I've heard, so Harmon goes, so is it like when you sit in a chair and lean back and don't realize it's going to lean back? That moment of like, oh, I'm going to fall. And that's exactly kind of just what randomly will happen. But I haven't had that happen since Friday. But then I kind of overdid it this weekend, and Monday woke up like just super dizzy. Like I ended up having to take um, some of the medicine for the dizziness, which pretty much rendered me unusable. I was able to like attend some meetings, and that was about it. It makes me so tired. I like just kind of nod off, but I don't get dizzy, and I was able to at least attend about probably 3 or 4 hours of meetings. So
Okay. Well, it sounds like things are getting better, so
yeah,
that's
just
good.
got to learn to take it easy. I've got another 6 weeks of potential stuff to go, and just yeah,
Well, there
is
you
what it
go, man.
is. Could be worse.
I got back from a road trip. I took a road trip down to, wanted to be socially responsible, so we didn't fly. We took the car, drove down to see Alyssa and Tyler
Nice.
in Cape Coral, Florida. So that was I don't know, 1,700 miles.
Yeah, that's a long drive.
It's a super long drive, but it's good to be back, man. It's funny the anxiety you get when you step away from your computer for too long. I just start getting this anxiety, like more emails, more emails, more emails.
Well,
I
I
got
mean,
shit to do.
I can relate because yeah, when this first happened back in November, like the first really 5 days, I couldn't, I wasn't able to do anything. So I was like, oh, what am I going to come back to?
Right. Well, here we are. We're back. Lots of things going on. How are things at FRSecure with your world?
Good, busy, busy, busy. Um, Starting to plan for next year and looking at what's coming up. I know we just sit at the uh, communication last week um,
Hmm.
that if everybody gets all their work done, it's kind of like a unofficial some downtime between Christmas and New Year's that week. We're not officially closed, but if you get your work done, just keep an eye on email and you don't have to be glued to your computer. Just enjoy the time with your family. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
that's it. I
fun.
mean, it seems like every fourth quarter gets a little bit better. We had my call this morning at 4:30 a.m. with Bulgaria, the Bulgarian team,
Mm,
and it sounds like they're going to get a little bit of time off around Christmas. So that's good.
yeah,
We used to tell people no vacations in fourth quarter, which always felt just terrible. I hated that.
yeah. And it's still we're loosening up on that, but you were just so busy, it's hard to get vacation. But then we do things like trying to get the week off between Christmas and New Year's just as a kind of a thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, same thing around here. FRSecure, everybody I talk to is really excited for 2021. It sounds like we're in a really good position. Fourth quarter, closed 2020 on a healthy note. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it was a struggle for a lot of people, with COVID and all that. first quarter we got out of the gate really good. Second quarter everybody's like, "What the hell is happening?" The world's flipped on its head.
Mm-hmm.
Third quarter, things started to kind of open up, so you thought, "Well, all right, there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's hope." And then the second round of lockdowns, you're like, "Oh my god, what is going on?" And then fourth quarter, we were really hoping that fourth quarter would hold the way it usually has, and it has. So,
Yeah.
and now with
Well,
the
I think,
hope of vaccines coming
yeah.
and all
Yeah.
that stuff,
Well, I think what's so impressive and speaks so much to the team, just everybody who's pitched in throughout the year, is we bypassed our 2019 sales number in November, even with
yeah,
everything going on, where basically the country shut down in April and May, right? And so just
yeah,
the work that those guys have, and women, that team, and everybody supporting them, and the analysts have jumped on calls, everybody, it's awesome.
yeah. It's really cool. And everybody I talk to is positive. I think 2021. I was telling Vinay yesterday that we're healthier as a company today than we were going into COVID, you know, and all the chaos of 2020. So we're really well positioned for a great year in 2021.
Yeah.
And I think so are our customers.
And what's so cool is we brought on those, the Renee's and Vinay's, and John has just stepped up, and we're doing, what I like to call, big boy company things now. And some of the maturity as we mature and do these additional things, it's just, it's amazing to think back. I can only imagine where you're coming from, or John comes from, but just in the 4.5 years I've been here, just where we were to where we're at is, it's amazing.
It really is, man. And the doing big company stuff without bad stuff. You know what I mean? I don't want
Right.
bureaucracy and all that stuff, which is really cool because we've always marched to the beat of our own drum. And we just keep doing that. I like that.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I mean, we came up with that initiative zero. I'll let the cat out of the bag, right? But the company culture is really what that means,
Yeah.
and that's what drives everything, right? When we make a decision, it's, does this align with who we are?
Right. Totally. On the security studio side, we're still chugging away. Lots of cool things happening there. We had a bug last week, which, you never like bugs when you're a software development
Yeah, but it happens.
company. Oh, it does happen, but it's not a good time for a bug. And the good thing is the workaround is really simple. It's a bug in the processing of vulnerability scan
Oh
files.
yeah,
From Nessus, and
the
it's a formatting error where the processing itself is functional.
it's the export to the spreadsheet. Yeah.
It's yeah. The good thing is the workaround is just reprocess those files. For some reason, when you reprocess the file, it works.
Oh, weird. I didn't know that was
Yeah, well, and it's
using that.
just and it's been crazy to hunt down, because if you can't reproduce people that are, for software developers, the easiest bugs are the ones that you can reproduce, the
Right.
easiest ones to fix. And this one was just a bear, so there'll be a
Hmm.
patch
Interesting.
soon. Yeah, so we got that holiday shopping list. I don't know if you saw the holiday shopping
I
safety
did.
checklist. That's been well received. Hopefully, people are following, some of that. I did break it down into mandatory. Like these are things you must do when you do holiday shopping. These are optional things.
Hmm.
Uh, and I tried not to be, too security paranoid guy. Not be too much like that.
Yeah, I didn't think it was. I think it was done well in terms of like written in a way that the normal people can understand it.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And then we put out an information security maturity model, just a simple 5-minute quiz
Yeah, I haven't done
that
that. I should do it right now. See.
yeah, it's meant to give people quick results because our assessment is very thorough. Thorough means long, means there's 683, I think, criteria that are assessed in our full information security risk assessment. And so give me something quicker, or give me something that I can get buy-in on even before I go down the path of doing an information security risk assessment. So anyway, that was published, and I think pretty good feedback on that. Other things, 2 books. That's what I'm going to write this year, with one with you and one with Ryan. It's funny because I've been doing the information security ABCs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think I finished H. I got to write I and hopefully J this week. But
We
it's
are
just take a.
aligned, Evan.
What's that?
We are aligned.
Oh, are you
I just did
on the
our,
maturity model?
yeah.
Very good. That's where we like it. Please, please be there.
It's always,
Well, line is
it's
yeah,
not perfect, right? But there's a couple of things. There's obviously stuff we can still always be working on. So
right. And being an information security consulting company, you'd hope that information security is aligned with the mission, which it is. So there you go. You just did a QA for us.
I
Thank you.
know.
It worked.
Sorry.
2 books. No, one book is going to be about, is you and I are going to write. We're
Yeah.
going to write the handbook for VCSO, which isn't like you got to write it prescriptive enough to where if you don't have these 5 to 10 things in your VCSO program, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Well, I think my thought is I'm going to approach it like I've told the analysts or consultants on our side with our methodology is think of it as a playground, right? You're going to have the equipment. We're going to give you this framework. You're going to have the monkey bars, the slides, the swings, and all the other different pieces of equipment out there. How you use those pieces of equipment, use them the right way for you or for the client you're working with. But everybody's still using the same things, the same tools, the same equipment. It's just how they interpret it or apply it is going to be customized because every organization is different.
Very true. Very true. I'm excited to get that. Now, we would have had a book done this last year had we not had COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll have another COVID. So I'm pretty safe to say that book will be published in 2021.
Hopefully. It depends on how quickly
Yeah.
we get vaccines out to everyone, right?
Right. And then the ABCs, it's funny. I was going to write that. Somebody had mentioned, oh, this is great. Just take this and put it into a book. And so yesterday I was talking to Ryan in a meeting, and he said his theme for 2021 is going to be information security ABC. And I was like, what? Well, then just take some letters off my plate and you can write that book with me. So that'll be cool.
Very cool.
On top of everything else, let's do a couple of books. Yeah, other than that, things are, I was working on some code. I was doing some JavaScript writing. I want to be able to go to a website and vulnerability scan your network, or not really vulnerability scan, more of a reconnaissance scan of your home network from a browser. So you wouldn't have to install anything, because one of the things that, and we're going to talk about that. This is actually a good transition. Information security at home. Today we're going to talk about, how to launch your router, first of all, how to find it, how to log into it, how to change that default password. That was the one thing that we said last week, must do first. Then the next thing is, to identify the things on your home network that you need to account for. And so we'll give it a little introduction, I think, today to, I don't want to get too deep because these are people at home, but
Right.
we'll do a command line and then we'll show them Nmap if they feel comfortable using that. They can always use this podcast, use the video recording, to go back and follow, step by step, because that's what we're going to do today. But I was thinking along those same lines, instead of you having to download, install, run Nmap, because you could just do a ping scan, but some things
Yeah.
won't reply to pings.
No.
So if I could give you a web page that you could run from, they used to be at open, but anyway, I was working on that too. All right, so this is where we were after last week. We talked about information security at home, and you and I were both in agreement, I think, that the number one thing to do is to log into your router,
Yep.
change that default password.
Yep. Let's see.
So let's help people. Now, for the techies listening, this is easy, probably. But what about the people? I'm not so worried about the techie people. I'm worried more about just everyday user at home that doesn't have the same skills, doesn't do this
Yeah.
for a living.
Yep.
So I figured we'd walk through, take them, people through how to find your router. 2, once you find your router, how to get to it. Once you get to it, log into it, and then where do I change my password? Now I'm a CenturyLink user. Who's your ISP?
MediaCom.
Okay, so that's kind of cool because I think CenturyLink and MediaCom are two pretty big players.
Yeah.
In this market.
Well, and so the way I have it set up, I can't actually get to my MediaCom from my work computer. So I have that restricted, but I can get to my Wi-Fi. So I run everything through DDWRT. I've flashed my Wi-Fi, so I have access to that. So I can't really show the MediaCom. I can look at it. I can see it across the office.
It's over there. See it?
Yeah, right.
Well, here I'll start then. So the first thing we want to do, if you don't know where your router is I guess my easiest way would be to open a command prompt, and I'll go ahead and share my command prompt so you can see. Maybe. So the way to get to a command prompt is, depending on your version of Windows, but you can just click in the search bar if you've got Windows 10, and then just type in CMD and hit enter. Now, if you've got admin access, it might be a little different, or don't have admin access, that might be a little bit different, but essentially you'll get this window. This is a prompt window. Now, for some people who have never, some people have never been to a command prompt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have to remind myself that stuff regularly because we take this stuff for granted.
Yeah.
So this is the command prompt. Now all I'm going to type in is ipconfig ipconfig at the command prompt and hit enter. What I'm looking for is a default gateway. Now, unless you've got a network like Brad's where you've got things segmented and sort of all over the place, in most cases, your default gateway will be the IPS. See this number here, 192.168.0.1. That's called an IP address. That would be the IP address of my router, right?
Yep.
So that's what I'm looking for here. That's it right now. So to get out of the command prompt, I would just type exit. Make sure you either write that IP address down or remember it, because that's what we're going to use. That's the address of the router that we're going to get to. So I'll just type exit, get out of there. Boom. Right? Simple.
Yep. Except your share went away.
I know. It's because I exited out of my command prompt. I'm not
Oh,
sharing.
okay.
I'm not going to share my whole.
I thought you were sharing. I was like, wait, where'd it go?
Yeah. So we did that.
Yep.
So the next thing you want to do, almost all these, at least mine does, all these have a web interface.
Yep.
Right. So I'm going to type in my browser. Now you can see that this is insecure. It's because the certificate is crap, but that's okay. It's probably crap on yours too.
I'm using self-signed. It doesn't trust it. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But you're going to type in, you know, the URL. It'll probably auto direct to HTTPS. Right. And I'm going to get this. I might get some other prompt where I'm probably going to get some sort of a login. I might also get, something telling me the certificate is invalid, which is what I originally had. So then I had to just bypass that by saying, proceed anyway. Now, username is probably going to be admin. Your password is going to be, if you don't know the password to your router, and this is where I think people, if you got this far, I think some people might get a little anxious. You've never seen this before. You don't want to screw things up. Don't worry about that. I mean, at this point, if you're using default usernames and passwords, consider it already screwed up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you don't know your password, if you go look at the bottom of your router or somewhere on the router, there'll be a sticker there that'll have the password that CenturyLink, set this thing up with, the default password. If that still doesn't work, you can call your ISP and get the password. They could potentially reset it for you, or there's a default password that comes with, if you see this model number, Zyxel or
Mm-hmm.
Zyxel, I don't even know how you say that. But if you Google this, C3000Z, let's see what it is. I don't even know how to spell this. Just go, type in default credentials. So I'm just Googling the model number and default credentials, see if we can find it. Well, there it is, right? So you can always try admin 1234, right?
Oh, come on.
Yeah. So one of those has to work probably
Yeah.
for you. But anyway, don't give up. Eventually you'll find it. So the username, most people don't change their usernames. And if you decide to change your username here, fine. That's great. The biggest for us to change right now is password. So if we just click apply in the GUI login, I'll see this pretty looking thing, which, modem status, if you want to click that, you can click any one of these. None of these 5 buttons, the modem status, quick setup, wireless setup, utilities, or advanced setup, none of those are actually going to change anything in your configuration. So if you're in here just poke around, feel free. I'm going to go to utilities. Nope, that's not where I wanted to go. Is it advanced setup? Anyway, we'll poke around here a little bit. We'll find the password. And these things are so slow because they've got like no memory. It's crazy. So if you do change your wireless router, that's probably a good thing. But over here under advanced setup, you can see on the left side, you've got security, and then you've got administrator password, and that's where I can change my password. So the username, I don't know what it would do if you disabled password. Have you ever done that?
I think it just lets you straight in. Like no
Okay, let's
password.
not do that.
That's what I would
This is
take it as.
right. And here you can change the administrator username if you want to. If that's too much for right now, just go ahead and leave it. But this is where we want to change the password and make it long, right? And if you have a password manager, which you should, that's where you'd, store it there. I'm trying to see, I'm talking while I'm typing a password. Do it.
It doesn't work. I've had to do that where it's like, okay, stop. I have to stop talking because I have to.
Right. So the password's 12-ish characters here, which is probably fine. The biggest thing is just to change the default. Cracking the password. What you don't want is just an attacker to be able to just guess your password. They're going to go with that default first. Now, if the ISP changed your default password to where it wasn't 1234 in this instance, it was something longer or different, you still want to use your password because your ISP knows the password, right? Passwords are meant to be known by you and sort of only you. So with that, click apply changes.
And think about it from a just an overall security perspective. It took you what, about 15 seconds to find the default password to something that is internet connected.
Right.
Somebody gets your IP address, which is available on, you can run those on Shodan.io, find those those devices.
Exactly. It's a piece of cake. And that's why this is the number one thing that we recommended, right?
Yep.
So there you go. I opened a command line and I did that just by clicking in the search bar in Windows, typing CMD. I got this black screen. I typed in IPCONFIG. I looked through there for something called the default gateway. That gave me the IP address for my router, assuming I didn't, make my network complex. I put that IP address into my browser window. I came up with a login. I used the login either given to me by my ISP, or I used the default login by just searching for the router model number.
Yep.
And then from there, I went into advanced setup, looked for administrator password on the left side, and just changed my password. Done. Took all of, if you've done this before, 15, 20 seconds maybe.
Yep.
If you're going to do it your first time, it may take you 5, 10, 20 minutes. It may take you an hour. But this is so important for your home network security that if you haven't done this, it's well worth the hour.
Yes. Yep.
So that's what I wanted to start with today. Just give people that. Now, your router is probably going to be somewhat similar. They're not all that different, right?
No, yeah, it's very, very similar. But the difference is I don't go directly through that.
Right. Right. And once you get comfortable, I mean, now at that point, change your password, log out. You usually don't just want to close your browser window. If you do just close your browser window, so be it. It's not a huge, but log out, go take a break, grab a cup of coffee. You did something really good for your safety, for your family's safety, for your privacy. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
So
you want
if
to,
I could pat you on the back through a podcast, I'd be doing that right now.
there you go. You want a quick peek at how I have it set up so that people actually know that it's I'm not just, and I think you'll enjoy the my router name. All right. So this is what I did. I flashed it. That's net, I don't remember, Netgear TP-Link something. But the basic setup, so you can see I'm actually going through, this is the internet, or my internet modem, cable modem IP. So it goes through that. Using DNS, I'm using Cloudflare's DNS by default.
What are you using? What are you running DDRT on? Are you running on like Raspberry Pi?
No, it's running on it's a TP-Link, or I don't remember. It's a standard Wi-Fi router.
Okay.
I was in here somewhere, but this is so you can see I've got the physical interface. It's not broadcasting, but then I've got my IoT device, and it's not broadcasting that. And you can see that it's unbridged. So I'm not able to get out across from that. It's got net isolation in place. Each one of these has its own DNS or subnet range. So I've got IoT. This is our guest for when people come over. The mobile is for, for the kids, iPads or whatever, if they want to connect their phone. I've got my work one. Zach has his own because he's got an older iPad that needed some specific configurations. And then the 5G is just that mobile 5G. And then I have my own that I connect my iPad or whatever directly to.
Nice.
So it's all well done out, and it's got some, the firewall enabled, blocking pings, things like that. And then I had to use this one for his older one. Otherwise, as soon as he upgrades, I'm gonna turn that off. It's only enabled on that one wireless, but
very good. Well, and for people who haven't, who aren't, what I don't want people to do is get overwhelmed and not do this, and I don't want people to think, well, it's too confusing. You saw that we were able to do it in 5 minutes. And then eventually you can get to a point where Brad, where you're very, very comfortable with networking, with, security settings on routers and firewalls. So eventually you can go there if you want to and maybe get a job, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, like
impressed.
I said, I clearly are in the probably top less than 1% of people that have it set to this level. But I don't know. It's
right.
I enjoy doing it. So.
Well, yeah. Well, you and I both, man. I mean, I got a bunch of weird things going on. I bought another Raspberry Pi, so I'm playing with that too. But that's what we do for a living,
Right.
But the stuff that I just did, anybody should be able to do. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber, a teacher, a house, homemaker, a student. I mean, that's step one. Once you feel comfortable, or once you've done that, then the next thing that I would recommend is try to discover or find all the things on your network. Because you'll be surprised that you've probably got stuff on your network that you didn't even know you had on your network.
Yeah.
And you can't secure stuff you don't know you have. So that's the next step, is to do that.
Yeah, and what's nice with what I like is I set the password for the wireless on the cable modem I don't even know what it is. It's like one of those last pass, like 32 character random generated things, and so nobody can connect to that. Right. So all of the traffic has to go through this, and I can see who's connected. I can see the device and all that stuff. So I have a good idea of who's on. I can set MAC filtering if I really wanted to get granular, but that's just a pain in the butt.
Right. Well, and there's when you start to get too complex,
right.
You increase your chances of making mistakes too, right?
Right. Yeah. You start making, well, and then you don't want to, it becomes too complex to manage. Right. And so then it's almost like, all right, well, it becomes less secure because it's too much.
Right.
You're not involved in it. If you keep it simple, it's easy to look at, what's going on. It's easy to troubleshoot.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the next thing is, discovering all the stuff on your network. You want me to take them through that?
Do I?
I mean, I can, or you can. It's easy.
I don't know. I have all my stuff on. I don't think I have Nmap or anything like
that. I'll do it, man.
Okay. Yeah. I have it all on a VM, and that takes a few minutes to boot up. You should see, I should have done my IP config because It's got all the virtual
Right.
interfaces from the VMs that I run.
So the same thing. I'm just going to walk
Oh, just
people through how to discover the things you have, on your network. So we already changed the password. Step 2, figure out what's on your network. So I'm doing command prompt again. So you're going to get used to command prompt and you get used to, typing things. But again, to get here in the Windows search, just type in CMD and you'll see this thing. And I start with IP config, right? What is, now you already went here. We went to our default gateway. What I'm looking for now is 2 things. I'm looking for this IPv4 address. That's my IP address of this computer that I'm working on right now. Here it's 192.168.0.5. And the other thing I'm looking for is this thing called a subnet mask, which is basically the size. It's the size of the network that I'm connected to. So in this case, it's 255, 255, 255.0. So just write those 2 things down, right? Because everything, if I haven't made my network more like Brad's, then this is what I'm going to have. I'm going to have a single network. I'm going to have a network with, and it's probably going to be 192.168. something. And my subnet mask is probably going to be 255, 255, 255.0. So, but write that down because that's where I'm going to try to find everything that's on my network. So that's the start. Once you're done with that, type exit to get out of that. Now I'm no longer sharing my screen. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open a browser. Now I prefer to use the tool called Nmap because it's lightweight, it's open source, it's pretty well supported, and it's super flexible. So if you decide you want to do more stuff later on, you can do that with Nmap. You can always install it later too. There's other tools that you can use. So Nmap isn't the only one by any means. It's just one that I've used for, it seems like 20 years now.
The 2 biggest ones that I have is Nmap or Angry IP. Those are the 2 that you see the most, at least that I've seen the most. But there are others as well.
For sure. So if you have one that's your favorite, then this is probably too remedial for you anyway. But if you don't, this is Nmap. So you can Google Nmap, or you can just go to nmap.org, find the download link, it'll be over here on the left side. Click download, it'll take you to this page. And what you're looking for is the latest stable release self-installer. You don't want to get any clearer than that. You're not going to compile your own version on Linux probably, but if you wanted to, here's your Linux stable releases. So you're just going to download this one, Nmap. In this case, it's Nmap version 7.91. You'll see it download, and then you'll start the installation. So that's the second thing to do. Now, if you're not running if you're not in your computer as administrator,
which
would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Right, but we're not even getting there yet, right? We'll just baby steps because right. I agree, man. This series is going to go for a little while because I think there's a lot of work for us to do here.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so Nmap downloads. You find where you downloaded it. Double click the executable to start the install process. If you're not on your computer as administrator, you'll have to authenticate as administrator when you do that installation. And then once that's all completed, it's a pretty straightforward installation. Then go ahead and open it. And I just accidentally opened Putty instead. Which is a whole different app. Not to worry, not to worry. Next thing you want to do is open. And in this case, what you're actually opening is it's a wrapper around Nmap called ZenMap. The actual Nmap is command line.
Right.
All right. So then I open ZenMap, and this is what I get now. I'll share my screen again. Pretty basic window. Now this will look this will all look foreign. The first time you've ever used this, you'll have, all these menu options and all these, you can see these command lines. If you're running Nmap from a command line, this would be the equivalent. So that IP address that I told you to remember, we're going to, instead of using my own IP address, if you remember, this was my own IP address, the 192.168.0.5. Instead, I'm going to do 0.0. So I'm just going to take the 5 off, and I'm going to do this slash thing. This slash thing is, I'm not going to get too technical, but this is what your subnet mask is, just in a different, saying it in a different way. I'm going to do /24. Right, that's the same thing. That /24 is the same thing as the 255.255.255.0 that I told you.
And I would say for the home users, that's all you'll need to know. By default, that is going to be either a /24 or the 222.55.0.
Yep, totally. Now you've got this intense scan. Now I typically choose the intense scan without a ping. And the reason why I do that is I don't want the ping scan to determine which hosts get port scans. And don't get too deep on this. This is a preference for me, but I choose this drop down and choose intense scan, no ping. That's what I would get if I were to run this from a command line. I'm not doing that. And then I just click scan over on the top right, and it'll take a while, depending on how fast your network, how fast your computer is, how many things are listening on your network, how many ports they have open. This is going to take a while.
Yeah.
And this is actually where I'm going to stop in this, in this podcast, because we'll pick it up from here next. Because what this will tell us, it'll tell me a whole bunch of numbers. It'll tell me a whole bunch of systems that listen to something on my network. But what it won't tell me in a lot of cases is what that system is.
Mm-hmm.
So Brad, that's where we'll go next week in episode 110 is how do I hunt these things down?
Yep.
Because you can see some things, on my screen right now that have already popped up. I've got a 192.168.0.2, port 22 is listening there. Well, what's 192.168.0.2?
Mm-hmm.
What system is that? I don't know. Maybe Nmap will be able to determine it, but in a lot of cases, you'll have to go and hunt it down manually. And again, this is really important. I don't want people thinking, well, this is too technical for me. I don't, this again took me 5 minutes to kick off this scan. And all I'm asking you to do once you're done with the scan is you'll just do scan, save, scan, right? When it's all done. So that we can come back next week, open that scan, dig through it, and try to figure out what the stuff is on the network. And the reason this is so important, imagine you being at home and having people in your home that you don't know are in your home, right? Don't you kind of want to know what's in your home, who's in your home? Computers work the same way. You may have computers out talking, systems in your home network that are out talking to things on the internet, good guys and or bad guys, and you don't know.
Yeah.
That's why this is really, really important.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And going back, it's a lot of the IoT type things, right? Do you know what all is on the network?
Exactly. So let that scan.
What if the kids brought home?
Right. Well, every TV you buy now, if you just set it up by default, right? And you probably want those cool new features. You want to be able to stream stuff and Netflix and, so you're putting stuff on your network all the time. And a lot of those things you'll forget that you put on your network. A lot of those things like, for instance, DirecTV. I use TV and I have those boxes in each room, right? Because you have a box in each room. Each one of those boxes connects not on the internet, but my network, and talks to other boxes on my network. You would never know that. And you would never know if any of those things have bugs, any of those things have, need to be patched. Yeah. So this is really important, this part too.
Yeah, I fully agree.
So let that scan run. If you followed along, you went to command line, you typed in, again, IPCONFIG, You found your IP address, and it would be just noted as IPv4 address. You found that, and you found your network, your subnet mask, which in this case, like Brad said, is going to be 255 period 255 period 255 period 0. Write that stuff down. Go out, download Nmap, install it, open it, type in that IP address in the screen that says where it says target, and instead of 255 255 255.0, you're going to do a /24. Choose your profile. I chose the no ping, but if you want to go with the default, which is just intense scan with the ping, that's fine. Don't worry about it. And I'm not going to go into detail what ping is, because I don't want you to have to be a network expert. I want you to just do the basics.
Understand it, yeah.
And then click scan. And when that's all done, it may take a long time. When that's all done, you're going to go, you're going to save your results. So you'll go scan, save scan. Save it somewhere on your computer if you want to follow along for next week. Otherwise, if you want to start hunting yourself, feel free to hunt. That's what I wanted to get through today, man. I wanted to kind of take it to that next level, and I think next week you can take it from there.
Okay. Yeah, and I think for our normal listeners, this is probably pretty what they would consider basic stuff, but this isn't for our regular listeners. This is for, hey, send this to your family, your friends that don't understand this stuff. It's a resource for everyone else that's not in security or technically or in IT.
Right, and that's the thing that, and if you're an information security person or a technical person, and this stuff is very remedial for you, ask yourself how many people you've talked to that aren't like you about this.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be your parents, whether it be a neighbor, whether it be a friend, and also maybe you can learn to try to not assume that people know stuff.
Yeah.
99%, 90, I don't know, some huge percentage of people have never heard of Nmap before.
Yeah, I'd agree. If you're not in IT or haven't been in IT, I would guess it's not been known.
Right. So you got anything to add, man? Do you think that's helpful?
No, I sure hope so.
Good.
I think that there definitely is a need out there for this type of conversation.
Well, and ultimately, your home network security, even though there is some effect on me, if you have if my neighbor has a terrible network, it will affect me to some extent, but truly who suffers from that is my neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And they're oblivious a lot of times to it.
Yep.
And especially this time of year, man. I mean, people are going to be getting all kinds of new gadgets for Christmas, and just be plugging that stuff in and be like, hey, it works. We're good.
Yep.
And owned. All right. What do we got next? Let's go. Oh my gosh, we got some news. Crazy stuff going on in our industry, which is normal. The big news that this last week came from FireEye, man. And I think you had texted me something about it too.
Yeah, I didn't know if you'd seen that, because it just broke yesterday, as far as I know.
Yeah. Well, and so the first news item, so FireEye, if for people who know, FireEye is, and people who don't know, FireEye is, kind of iconic in our industry. They're, long history. Kevin Mandia is the CEO. Started with, as Mandiant, and even before then, it was something else. I can't remember. But anyway, very well known, well respected information security company. Does a lot of nation state sort of stuff. Does a lot of incident response for the government.
I mean, they've put out some phenomenal tools, the Flare VM and a lot of other things that other people use. They've done a lot of good things.
Well, they were breached. So the first article is from Information or Info Security magazine, and the title is "Suspected Russian Attackers Steal FireEye Red Team Tools." My first thought, is, well, yeah. I mean, everybody is susceptible. Nobody is hack-proof, even the best of
Right.
the best.
This just proves if somebody wants to get in, they'll get in given enough time. It's going to happen.
Right. And, we don't know the details of this particular attack. But I thought the thing that sort of torques me a little bit about FireEye is the salesy approach that they take to everything now. You look at the blog post that Kevin Mandia posted. I think it was yesterday, or the day before.
It was like right at the end of the
Uh,
day yesterday.
okay. It's just nevertheless out of an abundance of caution. I hate that saying, by the way.
Well,
Out of an abundance of caution. Really?
yeah, I think the part that cracks me up the most being doing IR and working with legal, I read this and went, okay, so it's while the attacker was able to access some of our internal systems, at this point in our investigation, and this is the part that kills me, we have seen no evidence that the attacker exfilled data from our primary systems. What that's legally used for is we can't prove it one way or the other. We don't know,
Right.
but we haven't seen evidence of it. So it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means they haven't caught any proof.
Right. Yeah, the abundance of caution, and we've already, no evidence are they managed to exfiltrate customer data or metadata, but they definitely exfiltrated your red team tools.
Now, I agree on some of the salesy stuff, but I will give them credit for posting the countermeasures because they're giving away a lot of. I mean, well, they're out in the wild now anyway, but how they
Right.
do things. There's a lot of interesting stuff now available for people to look at.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this thing unfolds. The initial press release or the post was not impressive. In my opinion, it's the same stuff everybody says when they lose something. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what actually comes of it. I don't know what else to think right now because it's so sort of new,
Yeah,
but it's a hell of a target. That's for sure.
yeah. I'm guessing it's not going to be too long before somebody claims credit because it's too big of a heist to
Well,
lean
yeah.
into.
Well, I wonder how they were detected, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe why they weren't detected earlier. Usually data exfil. I mean, that's hard to do because
Mm-hmm.
you would think that they've got default deny outbound or something, where it's really probably buttoned down, especially where you're keeping your tools.
I would hope so. There was another article I saw that they said that basically they had, let's see, the attacker set up servers solely for the breach into FireEye, calling it a sniper shot. So these people were.
Who said that?
This was in a Washington Post article about that.
See,
So
but
there's so
you know,
much out there that we don't know yet.
well, that's the thing. I mean, everybody who says so many of these things, it's everything that's said at this point is kind of BS because you don't know. You
Mm,
may you may think that they had set up servers themselves, but if they were sophisticated enough to get past FireEye's defenses, you don't think they're sophisticated enough to uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Ah, lead you to believe whatever the hell they want you to believe, I guess.
right.
because also, FireEye in another blog post said they are highly trained in operational security and executed with discipline and focus. They operated clandestinely using methods that counter security tools and forensic examination. They used a novel combination of techniques not witnessed by us or our partners in the past. Maybe, or somebody clicked a damn phishing link.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that'll be interesting is what was the initial, how did they get in? How long were they in?
Right.
I'm going to guess that a lot of it was that what we're seeing, the fileless malware where they're running PowerShell in memory through legit Windows processes,
Right.
and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will. And the sniper shot thing, it's like, yeah, of course it's a sniper shot. I mean, not gonna, well, somebody was targeting them, right? But they've always
Right.
been a target. So I don't know. There's another post, on in the show notes from the register too, which, I think if you really wanted to do some investigation on this, you'd have to take all kinds of different sources and really
Oh,
spend a lot
yeah.
of time digging in on what's being said where, and
And realistically,
ultimately, I don't have that time.
it's going to be probably January, February before we actually get the results of everything and understand what all is going on.
Exactly. Exactly. But the key point, I think, here is I'm sure Mandiant has a good incident response plan and all that other stuff, but nobody is immune to being hacked. It goes for anybody. It doesn't, it goes for a Russian server just as much as it does for an American server or a Brazilian server. Everything is hackable.
Mhm.
Everything. So what this means to you, listener, is everything is hackable. So what things do you have in place? What things will help you understand when the bad thing happened? And then what would you do when it does?
Right.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean,
I
yeah,
did.
this is what we keep, this is, we preach it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yep. All right. The next one I got is, and I just put this up here quickly because I think it's important to not take your eye off the ball. This is from Security Fairs, Microsoft, December 2020, Patch Tuesday. Is that yesterday or is that next week? That was yesterday.
Yesterday. Wait. Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. 58 bugs, 9 of them are critical. 58 vulnerabilities, 22 of them are remote code execution vulnerabilities. Uh, the key here is patch.
Yep. Basics.
Yep. And we'll get to patching maybe next week when we talk about home. We'll go through some, how to hunt down some of the Nmap results, and then we can talk about patching too. That'd be kind of like the next thing, probably.
Yeah, I agree.
The last, or two more, these are also quick. This one comes from TechCrunch. And the title of the article is Researchers Say Hard-Coded Passwords in GE Medical Device Imaging Devices Could Put Patient Data at Risk.
What? Hard-coded passwords? What? That could put you at risk?
I don't know who to be more pissed off with, GE or the people who implement these things. Yeah. This is so common though in healthcare
Yeah.
where and others. I mean, but we've run into it in healthcare so many times where you can't change the password even if you wanted to.
Yep. Yeah, and this is not to pick on GE. They are not the only ones by far. This is
Right.
very common across all medical devices.
So if you're in healthcare, you still can secure those things. You would secure those things through network isolation. Uh, that'd be your primary control.
Like extra monitoring.
Yeah, but that's that, which just sucks when people's health is put at stake because of somebody somewhere at some point just thought, well, let's just make it easy. Let's make it convenient. Let's get it out into production as quickly as possible, not taking security into account. at the very earliest stages of development.
Yeah.
The last one I've got for news is from FRSecurity magazine. Again, it's the title is NSA Patch VMware Bug Now to Stop Russian Hackers. So there you go. That's all I'm going to say on that. Well, no, I'll say if the NSA is telling you to patch, you should patch.
Yeah.
Just saying. All right, that's a lot of news for one day. And honestly, man, I mean, we could spend 24/7 talking information security news because it's happening all the time.
Yep. Yeah, agreed.
All right, that's it for episode 109. Thank you to all our listeners. We do dig you. We think you're pretty cool. Most of you. There's three of you that we don't think are cool.
Yeah, but we'll leave you guessing.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you who those people are.
Okay.
Thank you, Brad. You got any shout outs?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Victoria, who we had on during the Women in Security podcast. She was able to cover on a meeting for me on Monday when I was not feeling so well, and then also did just a great job with kind of a custom engagement and handling a customer who was freaking out due to a deadline and not understanding what we provided. Well, again, because I couldn't get on a call. So shout out to Victoria for really stepping up and helping out.
Awesome, man. I'm going to give a shout out to Sean Pollard. Because I've heard numerous times over the last week how much of a go-getter he is, how, he just continues to take on it. What does he have, like 17
something like that
vCISO clients right now? I mean, that's nuts. And he's such a man of integrity too, which is just awesome. So shout out to Sean. Next week, we'll continue the information security at home discussion. We'll dig in a little more on identifying systems on your home network. And then we'll talk about patching. In the meantime, send us things by email at unsecurity@proton.com. Eventually, we'll go actually check that mailbox and see if we have mail. If you're the social type, socialize with us on Twitter. I'm at Evan Francine, and this other guy is on Twitter at Brad Nye. Lastly, be sure to follow Security Studio at Studio Security, because we like to mix things up, right? The name of the company is Security Studio, but the Twitter handle is Studio Security. If that doesn't confuse you, we've got some acronyms later that we can share. And FRSecure is on Twitter at FRSecure, and they're always doing a bunch of cool stuff. So I would follow those as well. That's it. We'll talk to you again next week.